What's up guys, welcome to a new video, and in this video we're going to be looking at the Insta360 Studio software. This is going to be a bit of an unscripted, longer form video where we're going to look at the software, how to get the files off of your X5 and how to actually make use of them so that you can put them into your videos, how to reframe, recompose, and some of the different options that you have to deal with this footage and the camera settings and all of that sort of thing. There's a lot you can do in the Insta360 Studio, adding color correction, and then also defining what your export settings are. Are you going to export it as a 4K file or a 1080p file or a 2K file? So we're going to go into all of that sort of stuff. So far, just to give you context, I have the X5 plugged into my MacBook Pro. I'm running the M1 Max MacBook Pro with 64 gigs of RAM. So if you have anything newer than mine, I think you're going to have no problems whatsoever. Insta360 is constantly updating this software, adding different things to it. We're also going to be looking at some of the extra options that are added whenever you pair your X5 with the GPS remote, because it adds extra data and therefore more options come available on this software. So without further ado, let's get into it. So there are various different ways that you can process this footage. You can take the files from the camera, throw them into a folder already on your computer, and then go through and edit them. Or you can keep them on the device itself, the X5, and edit them in the software whilst the files remain on the SD card on your X5 already. So in this case, I actually don't have a lot of space on my hard drive, so I'm going to do all of the work whilst the files stay, the 360 files stay on my X5. And then I'm going to export the final files, which will be smaller because we're going to be cropping and doing various different things. I'm going to export those then into a folder that I have enough space for. So in order to do this, I have all of my files here. So there's various different ones that I actually don't need. These are from the day before. I've already processed some of these. But the cool thing about Insta360 that the DJI Osmo 360 hasn't managed to do yet is that they've created a plugin that allows you to preview the 360 shot. There's still some issues with the stitch lines, it's not sorted that out, but it allows you to get a 360 idea of your shot before actually opening the software. So if I press spacebar now, I can see with visual and audio what the shot was in full 360. I can move it around by clicking on it, which is really cool, and you can't do that, like I said, with the Osmo 360. Anyway, that's some footage from the previous day. So I want to now go through and I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to right click, open with Insta360 app. Then it's going to probably ask me if I want to open 47 files. No. So here we have the Insta360 software. It's loading them in, and you can see up here on the left the different locations of those files. This message here that's just come up is detected my X5, and it's saying, do I want to import everything or select files? This is another way to go about doing it. If you weren't to go through the Finder, you would just plug the X5 in and it would open the Studio app, and it will identify that there's an X5 plugged into it. Bloody blah, blah, blah. You can select your files through here. You kind of get the gist of it. So we don't need to do this because we already selected our files. So some of these files I've already added keyframes for. So if I press spacebar here, I've already started to recompose these on some of these. I think I got down to 91, 89, 90, 91. So I have keyframes on all of these. So on the left-hand side, of course, we have our shots that we've taken. And these are shots that I took today, and you can kind of scrub through it. I'm just using my finger on the trackpad and scrubbing the mouse across, I'm not clicking anything. So it gives you a interesting equirectangular preview, so you can kind of see what you've shot, which is very, very handy, and it's in a decent size as well. And you can reformat this in different views, in different ways to view this, just like any other software really. You can do a list view. I like to use this type of view as well. I think that's really better, and you can obviously go from oldest to newest and newest to oldest, blah, 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 blah. So let's go to a clip like 1992. This is a video that I've been filming about the new accessories for the X5, the GPS remote, the extended battery, and then the ND filters, which is coming out soon. If you haven't already, can you subscribe to this channel? It would really, really help me out. I'd appreciate it. I'm trying to reach 20,000 by the end of the year. It's a long shot, but hopefully it can happen. I didn't think we'd get to 10,000 and we've already gone past that. So your subscription would be greatly appreciated, and it helps me to grow. Also, if there's anything in this video or any, if you've not bought an X5 or you are looking at any accessories, I have links to all of the stuff that I use down below. It's helpful if you use those links. So like I said before, this is a little clip. I placed my camera down on a selfie stick, and you can see I'm riding into the shot on my one wheel. I'm maneuvering this shot by just clicking and holding and dragging this around, and it's allowing me to see a full 360 preview. So we have to add keyframes to our shot. This by default will probably start off at a certain angle, but if I just export it here, I'm not sure it will even stay in this angle. So I have to add what we call keyframes, and the keyframes are listed, or the option to add a keyframe is through these tools here. You can hover over them and it will tell you we have keyframe, we have tracking, we have speed, and we have motion ND, so adding a motion blur to motion. And then on the left here you have your play and your play controls, and then we have our markers. So if you're an editor, you'll know you can mark an in point and an out point, and anything between that will be exported. The cool thing about the X5 is that it automatically detects the kind of start and end of a lot of the clips where you're reaching up and pressing the button, or you're just starting the clip, and it intelligently kind of trims the clip so you get rid of that whole thing with your arm up in the shot and everything, which is really cool. Now you can change that. That's depicted by this little thing here. You can click on it and drag it. So that's the start point of your video basically. When you export, anything within these two lines will be exported. Very similar to any other editing software that you'll be using. So I'm going to actually drag it to here because I used a remote, the GPS remote, to start recording, so I don't have myself in the shot. So I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to basically recompose it. So I've shown that you can click and drag, but also if you pinch on the trackpad, you can zoom in. And of course, like we've talked about many times, 360 cameras, even if they're 8K, as soon as you start to zoom in, you lose a lot of detail. And you can see if I really zoom in, I'm just a blurry blob. So then you kind of wonder, well, how wide or how tight do I have to make this? Well, there are options that are preset. So say I just want to recompose here, I'm going to add a keyframe. So there's different ways you can do it. Is you can click down here, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Command K if you're using a Mac, or you can right click the mouse that you have. And if you're using a trackpad, right clicking is just tapping with 2 fingers, and that will add a keyframe. So you can recompose it and then right click wherever your mouse happens to be, and it will add a keyframe on the timeline. So going back to talking about how wide or how tight that needs to be, if you click on that keyframe, it'll give you some options. So it's going to give you view options, standard view. So mega view, ultra view, de-warp, linear, and each one of those are a kind of a different level of cropping in, and will also kill some of the distortion, which is super handy if you don't want it to look like a 360 shot. So I'm going to go for linear here because I'm quite far away, and that you can see how it's recomposed the shot and took out a lot of the kind of warping and stuff like that. So I'm going to remove that, and each time you remove it or recenter it, you want to right click again. So I'm keeping my timeline marker over that keyframe, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So now I can press play, and you can see our timeline marker is going to move, and I actually realize that I don't start moving until about this point. So I'm now going to ignore that marker and drag this over, and it will still keep track of that data where it was set at. So I'm going to go here, and I basically want it to follow me, and I want to basically recompose it to about here now. and I'm happy with this. This is where it's going to end up. So if I right click here, then it's added a keyframe. So we got our 2 keyframes. So if I start from where I was going to start, we bring the timeline back here, and maybe I can actually, I'm going to drag that keyframe to where I want to start from, and then I'll put my in point just before that. Okay, so now it should track roughly with me. So that's great. Now you can zoom in on this timeline. If I want to get closer to these 2 key points, I can pinch on my trackpad to zoom in. You can also, I believe, use command plus and minus on the keyboard, which will help you zoom in and out. And then you have options as to how this is keyframed. So easing in and easing out. Does it go quickly into the movement and then slowly out, quickly out? And that's what all of these are indicating here. So slip fade in, slip fade out, and it will tell you which one you want. So if you want it to go quickly and slow down and then go quickly out, you can do so. Now I actually just want it to be, I think I just want it to be linear. I don't want it to be anything different. So there I have it. Now I move a little bit about on this, and perhaps I want myself to be tracked. So I can then go here and I can click tracking, deep track. So it's noticed that I'm a subject, a person that I might want to track in my image, and I can just click on me and it's drawn a box around me and it started to track in real time, and it will basically just follow me wherever I go, just like tracking on the Osmo Pocket 3 or something like that. The downside of that is it's going to keep moving with every little move that I make. So I'm going to actually stop it from tracking. Once I sit down, I've done a couple of takes here. So now, of course, we're also zoomed really in on our timeline. So I'm going to pinch to zoom back out a little bit. So we have our keyframes here and then our track here. So I'm going to, you can see I'm trying to get off my one wheel with not much success. And then sitting down and it's tracking me here. And then I do another take. So if I want this to stop moving, for instance, and I want it to stop at a certain point, so say I'm here, I try and sit down again, I do another take on it, okay, and I want it to stop moving now. I stopped my tracking. Maybe we can go back further actually. So I want to stop tracking about here, okay? Now what I can do is I can click on the tracked area, this green area, and then I can drag back where that stops. So now I'm only going to be tracked through this little green area here. So I should just sit down, and then the tracking is going to stop and the camera movement stays there. So that's tracking, and it's worth bearing in mind, like I mentioned, is the tracking happens in real time. So if you have a really long clip, tracking yourself, it's going to take a lot of time to track. Now there's a couple of settings that we can use that will help us, because you might think that, for instance, if you're walking with the X5 on a selfie stick and you're vlogging or you're talking to it the whole time, that you're going to have to constantly track yourself in that image. Well, we can use something called direction lock, which means that it won't, the view will follow where the camera's going. So we can make sure that it's always facing on us, and I'll talk through that in a moment. So now that we have this here, we're back at our thing. Maybe I want to add some speed, a speed ramping to it or something like that. Perhaps we can use a different track, a different thing for that. Maybe we can go or open this one here. Okay, so here we have something that's some B-roll. I'm moving on it. So let's say I want to compose it here. I'm going to right click, I'm going to add my keyframe, and I want it to spin around. Okay, so I'm going to have it spinning around, and then I'm going to compose here. So this time in between, it's going to be moving, and then perhaps I want to fast forward. So if I want to fast forward now from here, I can tap the time shift or use the keyboard commands, Command Shift S, and then it's going to kind of connect to my mouse here and show me the point in which I want it to stop. So I'll just click here on the timeline. Oh, there. So then now it's going to give me that little area where it's automatically gone to 2 times speed. Say I want to go to 6 or 7, I can go up to 64 times speed if I want. But let's keep it to 6 times speed here. So it will say to, it's having trouble with performance. So it's going to be a bit jumpy, I guess, with the performance. So it will work in export, but I'm going to have to slow it down for us to preview it. So if I want 2 times speed, it's going to add that there. And you can see the effect of the ND filter working here with the blurriness as well, which is cool. But you can also see that it's not only the effects of the ND filter that have come into play here, it's also added motion ND to it as well. So digitally, which because I have ND filters on, I'm going to actually uncheck. So that's the third thing. But if you really want that warp speed look, you can just click on that ND filter thing and it looks kind of cool. So that would be the 4th little tool that you have in your timeline here. Oh yeah, you can also zoom in and out with this here as well. So now that we've looked at speed ramping or increasing the speed to create a time lapse or a hyperlapse feature within the Studio app, now let's look at some of the other individual parameters that we can change on the clip itself. So let's go to another clip where I'm moving around. Let's say that's 17 seconds. Let's go on this one. Okay, here we have one where I'm on my one wheel. Okay, so by default, if I start to turn a corner, the camera angle will change as well in the opposite way. So what we want to know is whether we have direction lock on or off. So if I move the selfie stick and it's kind of pointing this way and I move it to the right on direction lock, if I want it to be facing what's in front of the stick, I want to have direction lock on. Or if I want it to be facing towards me all the time, no matter where I point that stick, I want to have direction lock on there. And how you turn that on is up here on the right hand side. We have a lot of different controls and parameters based on this one clip that we have in front of us. So here you have, it says stabilization type, accessories, assembly, media processing, audio, and various other different ones here. So what we can do is we can go to the first one here, which is stabilization type. And here you have different stabilization options, one of which being direction lock. And if you're not sure of what it is or you forget, you can just hover over the question mark and it will tell you what it is. So direction lock will lock this in. So it's locked in. So essentially we're looking at the opposite direction to where the selfie stick is looking at right now. So if I pull that 180 now, okay, so it should be pointing at where the selfie stick is. You can see it in my hand. So now wherever I move, that will remain central. So I can add a keyframe here, and I can also add keyframes around it as well. But in this sort of scenario, I think it's super handy, especially if you're vlogging or you want it to be focused on you. Instead of having to create a track the whole time like we did earlier, I can just put direction lock on and then keyframe it one time in my direction, and it will just always stay facing me or facing away from me or facing in whichever direction I put it. It shouldn't drift. Now you have other things like tilt recovery, and then you can add a bit of jitter. If you feel like the stabilization is just too smooth, too much, not realistic, you can restore some of this. These are new settings that have been added in the past, I think past year or so, maybe even since the X5. So once we've got our direction lock on, there are a few other things we might want to do to enhance this video, okay? And that can be to do with color, and this can also be to do with whatever accessories we have on the camera itself. So as you can see on here, up at the top here, we have lens guards. So Insta360 sent me an ND64 filter, which is what I have on the camera itself. I'm doing a video testing these new accessories. It should be available very soon. So you can see it's identified the fact that it's got ND64 attached to it. Now it asked me that whenever I attached it to the camera, it noticed that there was a guard on there. So that data is already built into the file. But if it's not for some reason come up, you can add that on there depending on which ND it is, or maybe you made a mistake, maybe it was ND32 and you tapped ND64, well, you can go and change that here. And from my understanding, or at least what I've been when I've been playing around with this, what this does is it changes the stitch line. So when you add an extra additional lens to the X5, it of course increases the radius of the image, and then also there's a little tiny lip where you attach it, which is raised up, which means that it creates a little bit of a blurry stitch line when you add it if you don't have this setting enabled. So having these correct settings will help you get the best image. And then of course you have the option if you have a dive case for it and various other things. And here you can also change the optimization for stitching. This is very new. They've been giving us all of these different options. And to be honest with you, I haven't messed around with many of them. I normally just keep it on the default and find that it's really good. But you have AI stitching here and dynamic stitching. Let me know in the comments down below if you're curious. I could potentially make a bit more of a video about that as well in the future. Chromatic calibration, sorry. This will, I guess, check for any chromatic aberration and fix that, which is something we definitely want. Stitch fusion angle. Okay, allows for stitching angles. Okay, so I think there, if you enable this, it will allow you to change how that stitches manually. But it's all very good. If I look around here, I don't really see any stitch marks, especially it's normally visible. If you're looking for a stitch mark, it'll be visible whilst the video is playing. And if I'm essentially looking at a stitch line because the camera is horizontal. So yeah, I'm not seeing any stitch lines. It looks really good. But if we take this off, you can see, if I take this off here, you can see that there is a bit of a stitch line. You can see it's a little bit wobbly there by my hand. And if you look carefully around the sides, you can see it's like warpy and weird. So then if I add that back on, the warpy weirdness goes away, and then it's a little bit less prominent by my hand, which is one of the reasons why you want to make sure you have these settings set correctly. Okay, so let's go on to a little bit of color. Let's open another tab here. And now we're really ripping through the country. And let's go to the third little tab or option for the clip here, and that will be media processing. So here is where you can add some of the preset settings that Insta360 gives you. And I actually quite like one of these. Some people might argue that Insta360's default color profile is way too saturated, and I think in some cases it actually is. But I also have come to really like it. I think it looks very vibrant whenever you're looking at it on your phone and stuff like that. So I personally don't really have an issue with that look. So you can add even more. You can add your color, your saturation, or you can decrease the saturation a little bit here to the main clip. Of course, you can do all of this stuff whenever you're editing it into a longer form video as well, but you can do it on the export here. And you can also add one of these two color optimization settings. Color Plus will lift the shadows a little bit and just make it pop a little bit, and Clarity Plus will add sharpening to it. So if we click on Color Plus, you can see all of a sudden it just has a little bit more definition. Shadows have been lifted a little bit, and it just looks nicer. We can do it here and there. Adds maybe a little bit of sharpness to it as well. I actually personally like to add that to the video. And you can't add clarity as well. It's like one or the other. So clarity I don't quite like using. I think it adds too much artificial sharpening to it. Color Plus is what I prefer. And then of course you can adjust the strength of that as well. So if you really go, you can go over the top here a little bit. It gives you way more of an HDR type look. But you can see how soft it can go. So I just normally keep it at 30. That's how they've set it. I think that's pretty good. So screen processing, motion ND. I don't really know what this is. Oh, I guess it's the same as adding this artificial motion blur in post here, down here. So this is one of the ways of adding it. You can also add it here. So it gives you kind of this warp speed look, and you can see that my computer is having a bit of trouble processing this. Could be cool creatively. I don't know if I'd want to export the file like that the whole time. But it will hopefully, I think if I have it locked on me, it will just keep me in the shot. And you have that kind of like, it really shows the speed in which you're moving. But like I said before, I already have an ND attached to it. So you will see that motion blur in the side anyway. So I don't know if I really want to go overboard, but it's there if you want it. It's an interesting creative option. So those are our settings for the media processing of each individual clip. And then of course you can do these, if you have a lot of video clips to process on the left, you can then go through and save a lot of these as a batch settings, and it will add all of those to the ones that you have in your media pool on the left. So you can check and uncheck whichever ones of these you want, and then you can go next and it will add it all to it. So I actually will keep that checked. So color plus is default. And I can select the files that I want those to be attached to. So I'm going to just apply it in batches. So that should automatically be checked whenever I go to my next thing. So now that we're going to go, let's do something that's going to be applicable again. Maybe we just keep this clip here. We'll go to the start of this clip. So for all of you cyclists out, well, first of all, let's go and just show Insta360, of course, wants you to add their watermark to it so that everybody knows that it's shot on an Insta360 X5, which I totally understand because yeah, you can get some incredible shots, and of course they would want their brand mark on it. So I think by default it has it off. I can't remember if it was or on or off whenever I started with this, but you can of course add it if you want to. But I'm gonna say of course no. But the other thing is you can add your own personal logo or mark, brand mark or something like that to the video as well. And I believe you can show where it adds it. So I had this channel, well I still have this channel called Silent Cities. I'll link it down below. It's a lot of 360 footage through Asia, mostly filmed on the X3. But you can add this in here and then you can show its location, how much it's feathered. And I believe if I face myself, yeah, there you go. It just sticks at the center of where that is. And you can change the corner radius to it. And you can change, I guess, the size of it as well. So if I wanted to cover myself and I didn't want to be visible, I could kind of maybe be a bit more discreet in hiding myself. But you could have, if you're a real estate agent and you don't want to see the person that's walking through it or something, perhaps you could add your logo there as well, and I guess you could rotate it. So that's kind of a cool feature if you're doing stuff for other people, or there could be some use cases there that I don't even know about. So then the next in line is this little icon here, and these are your stats, and these are only visible if you have this option is only visible if you've captured a file with a new GPS remote, which I have right here. So here we have the new GPS remote, which happens to have a microphone built into it with 32-bit float audio, internal storage, and then also all of the GPS data. So you can attach this to your handlebars of your bike or yourself or whatever, or you hold it, and it will record data like speed, the angle, the altitude, and things like that, which is really good, especially I guess if you're a road biker and you want to add this data to your files. But where do you add it, you ask? Well, I guess you probably you figured it out by now. You can add it by using this tab up here. So let me just put it here. So here you have some pre-made style templates, depending on your style, and it will show how the information is displayed as it would be like a heads-up display. So we have BMW. I think they partnered with BMW for some of the audio things. I guess BMW make a helmet maybe with some sort of integrated microphone that works with the X5. So you have this, okay, so at first I was a bit confused because you click on these different options and nothing comes, and then you're like, do you drag it? No, so the way you do it is you click on whichever the style you want, and then down below you can choose which data you want to add to the screen. So if I wanted acceleration, I could add that, and then if you can see, of course, BMW comes up for this template. You can also add the distance, altitude, and gradient, and route, and speed, and all of these different things. You could fill the whole thing up with all this data and information. So you get a whole heads-up display that reacts in real time to your speed and where you're going as well. So if you didn't want the BMW thing, there are various other ones that you can go for. This one says energy, looks pretty cool, looks pretty futuristic. We have speed, and we have rhythm. Then you have classic, cool. We have racing, futuristic, cyber, and simple. I guess they've got a road bike person here as well. So here you have options for the different ways that you want to, that you can display the information. If you want to show your journey, your trip, your speed, which I think is really cool. Having elevation, mileage. It's cool how it shows you that little map as well. I kind of don't understand how you do it, but I guess it just knows GPS coordinates and can make it up from there. So I guess if you're going for a run and you want to record your run, you can see your loop, you can see your pace and stuff like that, which is kind of interesting. So let's just export some of these things. I don't think I want pace. I don't really need altitude. Maybe we can have route, gradient, and speed, direction. I don't need acceleration, tilt angle, or date and time. So let's look at which one I want here. I kind of like this one actually. This is cool. This is so cool. 20 kilometers an hour. I didn't think my one wheel could go that fast, but I guess so. Okay, so let's just say I want to have my forward-facing view on here. I want to check that direction lock is on because it probably is. Oh, it's not. Okay, we didn't save that into our batch settings. Okay, so direction lock is on, so it should be facing forward the whole time. So in this scenario, perhaps I want to export a clip in front of me and then also behind me, of me, myself. So of course you can do that. Let's say I want this to be like my point of view. So I'm going to say I want this whole clip here to be included in that. So in order to do that, I need to, of course, export it. And I added a keyframe here. I don't think I needed to add that keyframe. I can click on it and then tap delete if I want to. Because direction lock's already on, it's already going to record it facing directly where it needs to go. So I want to export it. One thing we haven't touched on since we've been talking about this stuff is the aspect ratio. Are you exporting it for YouTube, for Instagram, or whatever? You're probably going to be filming in, I'm just going to move this here. You're probably going to be filming in 16:9, but here is where you can change the aspect ratio. So on the right hand side, and you can change it to 9:16. And I guess the information changes based on that dynamically, which is really cool. Or 16:9. And then here we have take a snapshot, which is we'll do a screenshot. And then we can toggle between full screen and none. But that's how you're going to set your aspect ratio for doing all of this sort of stuff. And then, like I said, maybe we want to export it now. So in order to export, we can do this a few different ways. We can go up here on the top right and click export. and it's going to come up with some export settings, or you can Command E and that will also export it as well. So if you're doing a whole bunch of different files, then you're probably going to want to add it to a list or add it to a queue. So we've done a few others, and then we want to, instead of having to do our clip, recompose it, export it, wait for it to finish exporting, and then go do the next one, we just add it to a queue, which will add all of this data to each queue. And then when we're done with our whole batch of footage, we're then going to click export and it will just go through everything once we're done. So we'd have to wait. So when you open this export panel, you're going to have these export settings. So you can export to the cloud. I don't have the cloud set up here, but I believe that whenever you purchase the X5, you can get some cloud storage as well, which will mean that you don't have to put the data on your device. And then you can export it locally as well. And then you can export it as a video or a 360 video. So the video is going to be whatever portion you've seen here and you want to export, that's how it's going to be exported as. The 360 video will then export it as an equirectangular image. So a long stretched out image that in editing software, you can then recompose however you want. Two totally different ways of doing it. For me personally, it's not worth the hassle of doing it in post. You could export them that way if you wanted to do some trimming and you wanted to do some, if you wanted to fix some of the settings on here, you could export everything in a batch in 360 video. Then you know that you have unlimited reframing capabilities. But for me personally, I'm just going to keep the original 360 file, so I know I can always go back and reframe it however I want anyway. So there's your option. You can change the file name here, change the file path as well. And then you can have presets that you set here. So I've done some before with my X5 where I wanted to have it export in Ultra HD in on a high bit rate at 60 frames a second. We're not going to use that here. By default, it gives you a bit rate of 50 megabits per second. You can increase that if you want. And then, of course, you can set your resolution here. I want it to export in 4K because that's where I'm going to output it to. I'm going to output it into, or I'm going to put it in a 4K video. And then you can have your encoding format and your frame rate. Frame rate is not changeable here. As your frame rate increases on your camera, it'll change that, or it give you the option to export in 60 or 30 as well. So here's our different options for our format. We can export in ProRes 422, LT, or H.264 and 5. Whichever file format you decide to use. ProRes, of course, is going to be the highest resolution, give you the most flexibility in post. And then we can add some of the media processing. So here, if you don't understand any of this stuff, it's got a question mark next to it. You can always hover over it. Flickering segments of the video, export time will increase. So I don't really need anti-flicker. I assume that has something to do with lighting. Don't need to do that right now. And then export a GPX file. I'm pretty sure that that is the sidecar file that is created by the GPS unit, because whenever you aren't using that unit, this option is not available. So I guess if you don't want to add the data to the screen at the moment, but you want to have that data file, you can export it using this. So now we have that option. Do we want to render it right now, or do we want to render it later? So we're going to do add to queue, so we can go and continue doing the next one of our the next clip that we have here. One thing I also want to go, we'll go to this one now. So I want to talk about what happens if you want to export multiple different angles. So there's two ways you can do that. You can actually use the AI tools in Insta360 Studio, which you can see here. These little numbers here, I probably should have gone through this at the start, but these little, not numbers, icons will give you different options. So this one is auto reframing. So it will pull out every different frame that it thinks you might want. I don't use this because it tends to pull out like 30 different angles and it takes quite a while to render. The star is obviously so you can favorite clips once you've seen them, and then you can see your file properties. But if we just do this just so you can see, it's going to take a little bit of time here. We might have to fast forward it in post. Okay, so now it's produced a few different angles, and actually it didn't produce as many as I was expecting it to. It only produced 3. So we'll have a look. I mean, they're improving this software almost every time I open it. There's different updates. So perhaps they've realized that you're only going to use 2 of the angles. So let's see what it's given us here. So it's given us this angle here, so we can watch it through. Okay, this is the forward-facing view. Let's scrub through it a bit faster. Okay, so then the other one, I guess, is the selfie view. Okay, it's very close. Okay, I extend it. Okay, so this is too close for my liking. So it doesn't look like you can modify the pre-made angles, but that's pretty good. We'll try it again with another one, but it gives you some more options. I guess I didn't have the selfie stick fully extended, which is probably why it's not great. Maybe I did. Yeah, you can see it's not fully extended there. So that's at least one of your options to get multiple angles of one video. Okay, so let's go to this one here. So let's just say I want to compose this shot of this nice little street with this row of houses here. I want to add some keyframes. So I want to really show off these houses. They look really cool. I want me to be out of it. So maybe I go back here, I modify it slightly. I double click to add that again. And then you can see here, if I add another keyframe, if I add dewarp here, it will really zoom in, but it will kind of keep those lines a little bit more straight. It gives you less of that fisheye view. So let's say I just decide I want to do this, and then I want to end it with this, and then having it face that building again. Okay, so let's say that this is my clip that I want to export, but I also want to export a version of me in the frame as well, and then maybe I want to export a third version as well. So what I can do now is, now that I've got my keyframes, I can go up to export. I can add that to the queue. So I have my one, and then I'm going to go to that next icon below where you can add the watermark, and I'm going to click on this, and it's called clip management. So here is where we can essentially save our different keyframe options here. So, and I think I can even rename it. So I can say houses, but the likelihood is you're probably just going to keep it clip 1, clip 2, clip 3. So I create a new clip, okay, and that essentially just gives me another. It gives me that same clip again with the same timeline, but without the keyframes. And now I can keyframe it however I wish. So let's say I want to, let's start with direction lock on, because I like to do that. And like I said, direction lock fixes it ahead of you, but you can also set it behind you, and it will stay on here. So let's just say this is where I want the direction lock to start. I'm going to click on it, so hopefully it shouldn't move beyond me. The stick will just rotate around, but maybe I want it to pan down a little bit, so I'm going to move it manually, and then I'm going to right click for my keyframing, and then maybe I will show a little bit of myself and the buildings, and then me looking at the buildings like this. Okay, so there I have my keyframe here, and I maybe want to end the clip here. I don't actually want all of that extra. So I'm going to put my out point there. Okay, so I have my second reframed image. And then I'm going to go through my video settings. In the folder that I want it to be in, 4K, H.264 is fine. So I'm going to add that to the queue. I could then add a third one. So I can create a new clip, and it started again, you know, and maybe I just want to have it looking up the whole time. So I'll just add my keyframe, and direction lock will be on because I turned it on. Oh, maybe not. It's not on by default. So I can add direction lock, and then I can just have it. Perhaps I don't really want direction lock on for this one, but you can mess around with it in your own time. So then this could be my third version, which I could export as well, which I actually don't want to. But there we have it. These are our clips, and they stay there as well. If you have your original 360 clip, then it will, when you open these clips again in this software, it will remember your different variants that you have. And of course you can duplicate them and delete them as well, which is really, really awesome. And you can see here that this clip in particular does not have the option for all of that GPS data with the speed and all of that sort of thing, because at this time I was not using the GPS remote. So if you want that data, this is how you get it, through your GPS remote. This is $159 right now on the Insta360 store. I've made another video about it that's going to be released after this, but it's really, really cool. It holds all that data, remote recording. I think I've already said some stuff about it. Also has audio. So that is, that's where we're at with this sort of stuff. And then of course that lower last tab has all of your data. The camera was in auto wind reduction, noise reduction, which is one of the settings. And then of course it's like the 8K, tells you the bit rate here as well. So there are your properties here. So now essentially what we could do, well, what I would do if I'm doing, I have to process all of these. I just go through each one of these and process them as I need to, and then use all of this information, this data, to color correct them, make sure all my stitch lines are good, reframe them as well, and then we're good to go. So now that all of that is taken care of, we can go up to the top here, and you have a few other little icons. You have some tutorials if you get lost and you get stuck, you don't know what to do. This is to give feedback if you have find any bugs or anything. And then of course you have your task center, and then logging in with your Insta360 account, and that will be relevant if you're exporting to the cloud. For this scenario, we have 3 in the task center. We click on it, and then this is our task center. This is where we can set all of those queued up tracks or video files that we've recomposed and get them to start rendering. Here we can select them all here, and then we can click start all. You don't even need to click that all if you don't want to. And then this is also to show which folder, or allow you to open the folder that which is going to be going into. So then you just click start all, and then this will start to render your videos, and then it'll give you a notification when it's all done. The export records, if you ever lose track of where you put the files or which folder you put them in, you can go to your export records and then click in, and it will show you where the previously exported video files are located. Here you have the cloud export for the same thing if you're going to do it with cloud. Download, I assume that's to do with the cloud stuff as well. And then manage sharing, I don't know much about that either. I don't think those are as relevant. But for me in my use case, I'm only ever in local export. That's all I ever use this for. So there's a whole nother workflow, I think, with the project setting here in the Insta360 Studio software. We're not going to get into that in this video. This video is long enough as it is. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Once again, it will help me grow and helps me to make more of these videos. My goal is to really just be as helpful as I can. I love using this tech, so I'd like to share my experiences and my knowledge with it. If you have any questions, or you want me to touch on any other points that maybe I might have missed, leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.